days of war in the Caucasus have left the region devastated and shaken the world politically. Russian troops shattered the Georgian city of Gori after penetrating deep into the country's interior. Moscow was flexing its muscles to show it had lost none of its great power status. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev struck a confident imperial pose when he announced Moscow would recognize the Georgian breakaway regions of South Ossetia and Abkhazia as independent states.
This is our seaport.
While visiting the Baltic Republic, Estonia, German Chancellor Angela Merkel responded.
This, according to my perceptions, contradicts the principles of territorial integrity as a fundamental right. And that is absolutely unacceptable.
If anyone understands the conflict between East and West, it's Egon Bahr. He has always sought dialogue with Moscow. He worked together with Willy Brandt to pursue a policy of change through rapprochement. The Social Democrat politician is known as the architect of a series of treaties with the former Soviet Union.
In my opinion, Russia has overstepped its bounds by declaring both of those regions independent. They will not become independent countries. Russia cannot determine that. No one can determine that, except perhaps the United Nations.
Russia's flag is flying high. At its embassy in Berlin, the enormous country seems to have lost none of the swagger it had back in Soviet days. They're demonstratively relaxed about the crisis in the Caucasus.
If they want to declare a Cold War or a cold peace on Russia and freeze contacts to Moscow, then you have to ask, what's better? Who's dependent on whom? NATO on Russia? Or is it the other way around? We don't need NATO at all.
The Russian economy is indeed robust. Germany depends on Russian oil and gas. The country's wealth of raw materials has brought affluence and influence, and that has soothed the Russian soul.
The
Russians said they were averse to enlargement of the EU and NATO, but they were told they had to swallow it anyway. They were too weak to stop it. And it was true. But it humiliated them. Now, perhaps they've become stronger. It's psychologically understandable that they're now doing something the West can do nothing to stop.
The West, and Germany in particular, have been at pains to prevent the dispute from escalating. They've pursued maintaining dialogue and closing ranks within the EU. German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier and the Chancellor have both been pursuing this together, including at the EU Crisis Summit in Brussels earlier in the week.
I think there are mutual interests here. That is Germany's position as well. We do not want communication ties broken. But of course, words have to be found to describe the situation.
While European leaders were working on strategies in Brussels, Russian television broadcast images of Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin looking tough. At the summit's conclusion, everyone agreed there should be no sanctions against Moscow, but they threatened to postpone talks with Russia on a new partnership pact if Moscow did not withdraw its troops to pre-conflict positions in Georgia by mid-September. Meanwhile, in Russia, President Medvedev had time to visit a provincial school. The war in the Caucasus may have ended, but the political conflict is a long way from settled. What role can Germany play in the future?
Germany should not try to push its way into taking up a special role. Germany should, on the basis of its decisions, obligations, and declarations, work consistently to continue what used to be called a strategic partnership.
I think the recent tension in our political relationship will quickly pass. What will remain are very good, very positive German-Russian relations.
These positive relations are helpful, above all, in times when the people of the Caucasus still fear violence and expulsion.